The King's Avatar. Chapter 15:12 Terrifying Pressure and Precise Calculation. Audio source: wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 15:12 Terrifying Pressure and Precise Calculation. Translator: Nomyami. Editor: Nomyami. Ellipses. Han Wenking's response was more ellipses. He was only facing a cleric. Against a cleric without any outside support, if he could get close, killing the cleric would only be a matter of time. But Han Wenking's reply was unexpectedly the same as before, ellipses. This meant that even now, he wasn't able to close in on An Wenyi's little cold hands. Zhang Xinji felt surprised. Everyone who understood the meaning behind these ellipses felt surprised. The broadcast immediately switched the focus to the battle over there. Sure enough, Desert Dust was still chasing after Little Cold Hands. Let alone Tyranny's players and the viewers watching them, even Han Wenking himself was feeling surprised. Healer classes moved slowly compared to other classes and didn't have any movement skills to help them move faster either. It was true that strikers need to get extremely close to their opponents before they could start attacking, but strikers were naturally fast classes unlike healers. Along with the several movement skills, their movement should be much faster than clerics. But he wasn't able to catch him. Was it because Little Cold Hands was wearing equipment that buffed his movement speed? Happy had used this sort of strategy before in the Challenger League. A fast cleric restricted the opponents to a certain extent, but this match, Little Cold Hands was wearing his proper high crit healing equipment. His movement speed was the same as a normal cleric, slower than average. Yet Han Wenking's Desert Dust was just unable to chase him down. Although Han Wenking was surprised, he knew the reason why. Because of the terrain. And Wenyin was extremely familiar with this residential area. In addition, the terrain wasn't flat. There were many buildings on top of the trees, some with 2 or 3 floors. Little Cold Hands wasn't fast, but he took advantage of the terrain, nimbly moving in and out. At first, the audience had felt astonished that Han Wenking wasn't able to catch up to Happy's weak point, their healer. But after the broadcast showed his pursuit of him, everyone felt that it was the opposite. Han Wenking not being thrown off by An Wenyi and sticking so tightly to him was truly impressive feat. It was indeed impressive. However, the one who was shocked the most wasn't Han Wenking, but An Wenyi. He thought that he had studied and practiced this area more than enough. Losing an opponent here shouldn't be hard at all, but it turned out that he was wrong. Han Wenking. Even though An Wenyi admired Zhang Xinji the most, as a Tyranny fan, how could he not respect Tyranny's captain, Han Wenking? He had watched Tyranny for many years and was very familiar with the team. But after entering the pro scene, he quickly understood that the might he saw while sitting in front of the TV was very different from personally experiencing it for himself in a match. The feeling of oppression that he got from Han Wenking chasing after him made An Wenyi's palms sweat, but he didn't dare take a pause to wipe it away. Under this enormous pressure, the confidence that he had from his familiarity with the terrain was gradually being whittled away. An Wenyi didn't know how much longer he could endure. Han Wenking had the time to respond to his team with ellipses, but for An Wenyi, the only thing that he had the time for was to keep running for his life. He had no time to do anything else. He didn't even dare to blink at this point. He needed to carefully and quickly make decisions. To think he hasn't made a mistake yet. Han Wenking's astonishment towards An Wenyi gradually shifted from his familiarity with the map to his calmness under heavy pressure. The public's evaluation wasn't wrong. Even if Happy's rookies didn't have the skill, their spirits were incomparable. A rookie was being chased so closely by him, yet the rookie was still able to keep a clear head, quickly and accurately making the right decision every time. Han Wenqing couldn't help but think of another player, his partner for many years, Zhang Xinji. Although the two were partners, when Zhang Xinji first joined Tyranny in Season 4, Han Wenqing's outlook towards him was as a senior player towards a new rookie. However, the Zhang Xinji at that time was similar to this and Wenyi. No matter the situation, there was no sign of panic. Calm and careful were the characteristics of this rookie, becoming the sturdy shield for Team Tyranny. And Wenyi's technical skills couldn't compare to the rookie Zhang Xinji of that time, but his mentality and his willpower gave Han Wenqing a feeling of déjà vu. But he wasn't going to let up. Let alone a player similar to Zhang Xinji. Even if Zhang Xinji had transferred to a different team and were in Wenyi's position, he would still chase after him with everything he had. To him, that was the greatest respect he could give. Chase. Continue chasing. After replying to Zhang Xinji's inquiry, Han Wenqing wasn't swayed. He didn't feel embarrassed because he couldn't even catch a rookie. He wholeheartedly focused on this one goal. No matter what, he would chase down Little Cold Hands. At this moment, Little Cold Hands suddenly moved horizontally. Suddenly changing directions was a common method to escape from an opponent, but up until now, Wenyi had never used such a method. A sudden turn tested the opponent's reaction speed. If the opponent's reaction speed was fast enough and adjusted prompt enough, it also gave the opponent an opportunity to catch up. That was why Wenyi had never used this sort of risky method, because he clearly knew his value as a healer in a team competition. No matter how poor his technical skill was or if he was the weakness of the team, as long as he was alive, he would be a huge threat. As a result, Wenyi had always been exceptionally cautious. But at this moment, he suddenly took a risk that he had never taken before. Soaring Tiger. Han Wenqing's Desert Dust immediately used the powerful skill, ferociously pouncing on him. The entire stadium erupted into cheers. But it missed. It was just by a bit, but the Soaring Tiger missed its mark. But when Han Wenqing chose this skill, he had thought of what came after. The Soaring Tiger missed, but he hit the tree. He crouched down and borrowed the tree to shoot forward. With this, Desert Dust's speed increased sharply, moving like a flying artillery shell. But Wenyi seemed to have known as Little Cold Hands rolled to the side. Desert Dust missed again, and this time, he could not immediately turn like before. 1,000-ton drop. Han Wenqing could only use this skill to let Desert Dust fall faster. However, by leaping off the tree and then using this skill to fall, Desert Dust had moved a large distance. When he turned back to find his target, Little Cold Hands had widened the distance between them. I fell for it. Han Wenqing continued to give chase, while sighing helplessly. He wasn't a brainy player who was proficient at planning. Although his opponent was a rookie, it looked like he was better at these sorts of schemes than him. Wenyi once again took advantage of the terrain, calculating what Han Wenqing would do, and then courageously took the risk to widen the distance between them. Wenyi had been a fan of Tyranny before. He was familiar with Han Wenqing. And after becoming a pro player, this familiarity as a fan naturally became an understanding of an opponent. This time, he used what he knew about Han Wenqing to succeed. The viewers and even Pan Lin and Li Yibo weren't thinking as much. However, compared to Han Wenqing, they knew more clearly why Wenyi took such a risk. Happy had sent a message in the team chat. Yishu had called for Wenyi to convene with them. Would they succeed? When Yishu sent out the call, everyone had been watching Desert Dust sticking closely to Little Cold Hands and let out a big question mark. But Wenyi immediately completed a beautiful escape, dispelling their doubts. But good things don't last. after having a specific direction to move towards, and when Yi's escape choices weren't as flexible anymore. WuxRWorldAudio.com. He need to follow a general direction and make a decision. As for Han Wenqing, he also received a message from Zhang Xinji, telling Han Wenqing their coordinates and asking Han Wenqing for his coordinates. With this, Han Wenqing was able to see through An Wenyi's intent. Now that he knew An Wenyi's aim, he could make predictions. Han Wenqing was no longer chasing after An Wenyi brainlessly like before. Desert Dust's pursuit became more orderly. Sometimes, people felt like he wasn't chasing Little Cold Hands. Instead, it looked like he happened to be following the same route as him. And An Wenyi's attempts at fights gradually lose their effectiveness too. I've been seen through. Seeing Desert Dust getting closer step by step, An Wenyi suddenly realized where the issue lay. But at this point, it was too late to regret his previous actions. Keeping running. His best choice was to simply run as fast as he could. Tricks would only be a waste of time. Next, it would be a contest of speed. However, since his opponent was a striker, how could he hope to outspeed him as a cleric? And Wenyi could only hope that he could meet up with the rest of Happy before his opponent caught up to him. So he sprinted. He didn't spare his stamina, using everything he had to sprint as fast as he could. And Wenyi wanted to cover the greatest distance in the shortest amount of time. But unfortunately, if he could do it, so could Han Wenqing. As long as he caught up to Little Cold Hands, Desert Dust wouldn't need stamina to finish him off. Sprint. All-out sprint. Han Wenqing's Desert Dust immediately sprinted after him. The distance between the two characters closed at a visible speed. He's caught up. Pan Lin shouted. Launching kick. Desert Dust jumped and kicked. It hadn't been easy catching up to Little Cold Hands, so of course he wouldn't use a knockback skill to help push Little Cold Hands away. He used the striker's knock-up skill. He wanted to send Little Cold Hands into the air and then slowly deal with him. But, boom boom boom, 3 rounds of artillery shells exploded between Desert Dust and Little Cold Hands. Little Cold Hands wasn't hurt, but Desert Dust was blown back by the shockwave. A figure stepped out of the forest and then instantly reached Desert Dust's side, cold light flashing. When did you ever become so shameful, bullying a little kid like that? A merciless message from Yi Shu popped up in the chat. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1513 The Resolve of Both Sides. Audio source, WuxRWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1513 The Resolve of Both Sides. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Team Happy and their healer had convened at an opportune time. The Happy fans let out a cheer, while the Tyranny fans let out a sigh of despair. But what about after? Tyranny's fans quickly regained their composure, because it wasn't like Happy had the advantage now. Happy had convened with An Wenyi, but Tyranny had convened with Han Wenqing as well. Previously, it had been Han Wenqing chasing down Happy's healer. In the other battle, it had been Tyranny with a healer suppressing Happy without a healer. Happy had the disadvantage in both of the battles. Now, they were on an equal playing field with Tyranny. However, with the disadvantage carried over from the previous battles, how would they win on an equal playing field? Happy didn't continue fighting. Yishu's Lord Grim rushed out, and with help from his teammates, he sent Desert Dust flying away. Then, Happy immediately turned around to retreat. Of course, Tyranny wasn't going to let them go so easily. This was a perfect opportunity. When it came to direct confrontation, Tyranny had no fear. No more hiding, no more holding back. In an instant, they transformed into the Tyranny that everyone was familiar with and pounced fiercely onto the retreating Happy. Happy didn't fight back. Trees, grass, houses. Happy utilized what they could to hide and avoid Tyranny. A team retreat had its advantages and disadvantages compared to an individual retreat. The advantage was that they could help each other, opening up more varied options. The disadvantage was that a mistake from a single teammate could affect everyone. 2:11. A message suddenly appeared in the Tyranny chat. It wasn't from Zhang Xinjie, but Lin Jingyan. 2:11 pointed to the hour hand positions on a clock. When the others on Tyranny saw Lin Jingyan's message, they immediately locked onto those two directions. The characters at the front of the team rushed towards those two directions. Although Lin Jingyan wasn't the shot caller, there had to be a reason for him giving out these instructions. Desert Dust turned towards the 2 o'clock direction, while Dazzling 100 Blossoms turned towards the 11 o'clock direction. The two soon locked onto their next target, Boundless Sea. Feng Rui's Boundless Sea. Lin Jingyan relied on his understanding of his teammate to grasp this opportunity. Han Wenqing and Zhang Jiali didn't question him and immediately carried out his plan. Boundless Sea was now surrounded by the three of them. Holy Trinity. The three attacked without hesitation. Lin Jingyan was too familiar with Feng Rui's style. His dirty playstyle wasn't something that everyone could keep up with, which was why on the team competition stage, Feng Rui would often wander off from the team on his own. Lin Jingyan understood this point and watched for such an occasion to take place. In one move they surrounded Boundless Sea, and the rest of Happy could not rescue him immediately because he had separated himself from the team. Rescue him now? Of course they could, but Boundless Sea was already surrounded. If they turned to rescue him, they would have to abandon their original plans to retreat. What's more, whether they could quickly rescue Feng Rui was another question altogether. This was the danger of a team retreat. If you caught one player, you caught the entire team. The three generals attacked Boundless Sea decisively. However, Happy was even more decisive. Tyranny had focused three of their members onto Feng Rui, reducing the overall pressure on Happy. Zhang Xinji's immovable rock was just a cleric, his individual threat was limited. Qin Muyun's -9 degrees was not enough to keep Happy's other four members there. As a result, Happy ran away. They didn't even stop to pause, decisively abandoning the trapped Feng Rui. They regarded their trapped ally not as a restriction but instead as an opening. How determined! Li Yibo couldn't help but shout. Happy's insistence on running away was rather surprising. It wasn't like abandoning a teammate was never done, but usually, the abandoned teammate would be used to trade for the initiative. Right now, Happy abandoning Feng Rui didn't yield them any sort of initiative. All they got was an escape from an unfavorable situation. And then, Happy would lose Feng Rui and would still be in an unfavorable situation. If Tyranny simply employed a strategy where they traded blow for blow, Happy would suffer greatly. After exclaiming in surprise at Happy's resolve, Li Yibo adopted a critical view of Happy's decision. But at the same time, there wasn't much else they could do. Yet after analyzing them, Li Yibo spoke in their defense. A direct confrontation here would be too disadvantageous for Happy. By sacrificing a player, they gain time to reset the battle and formulate a new plan. If they can take advantage of their familiarity with the map, there will be more opportunities in the future. Is that so? Pan Lin was still doubtful, because the more time that Li Yibo mentioned Happy would gain didn't seem like it was coming fast. That was the impression that everyone got. Feng Rui's Boundless Sea was killed incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, Boundless Sea's name turned gray. Their speed came from their resolve, Tyranny's resolve. After Happy abandoned Feng Rui to escape, Zhang Xinjie didn't hesitate to order the entire team to focus all their efforts onto Feng Rui's Boundless Sea. He didn't care about what Happy would do next, nor did he think about using this situation to make any future setups. Quickly kill Boundless Sea. Because a numbers advantage would always be the most reliable and trustworthy advantage on the glory battlefield. If such an opportunity was presented in front of them, there was no need to hesitate. A Chi master wearing cloth armor had low defense. Under Tyranny's full focus and the watch of the many experienced players on Tyranny, Boundless Sea wasn't even able to use defensive skills like Chi Guard that would let him survive just a bit longer. Boundless Sea's health dropped to 0 almost instantly. Then, Tyranny immediately turned around and chased after the rest of Happy that could still clearly be seen. Pan Lin's doubt came from this. How much time had Happy gained from Feng Rui's sacrifice? Li Yibo was also stunned. He didn't think that Tyranny's attacks would be so fierce to the extent that Feng Rui couldn't even put up a struggle before being killed. Happy is in trouble, Li Yibo immediately determined. At this distance, disappearing from Tyranny's sights without a trace was impossible. In the end, Happy would not be able to avoid a direct confrontation, except this time, they would have one less player. Where is Happy running away towards? Pan Lin pointed out, the support zone. Li Yibo also saw it. Starting from when Happy abandoned Feng Rui, the retreat direction had been extremely clear, the support zone. This was because their sixth player would come in from the closest support zone to them. Happy need to hurry and meet up with their sixth player to maintain a 5-member formation before making their next plans. But now, they've switched directions. Pan Lin shouted. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Li Yibo also saw them change directions. After confirming the speed of Tyranny's pursuit, Happy turned away from the support zone. Tang Ru, who had been automatically loaded in, immediately saw Yi Shu's instructions in the team chat, telling her where to go. Happy needs to get as far away as possible from the support zone. Li Yibo said. They have no way of avoiding a confrontation with Tyranny. The closer they are to the support zone, the more advantageous it is for Tyranny. Yeah, Pan Lin nodded his head. He didn't need Li Yibo to give any further explanation. When one had a numbers advantage, trades were the most common and most reliable strategy. The closer they were to the support zone, Tyranny, who still had their sixth player, could quickly keep up their numbers advantage when one of their players was traded away. If the team fight took place far away though, then while Tyranny's sixth player was rushing over, for a period of time, Happy would temporarily be back on equal footing with Tyranny, a 4v4. Statistically speaking, most turning points took place during this period of time in Glory Team competitions. The disadvantaged team would often try to turn things around. Tyranny was an experienced team, but Happy had Yishu, who didn't lose to them in terms of experience. From this adjustment, it could be seen that Happy hadn't given up. They were going to put up a fight. Tyranny was in close pursuit. Happy could not shrug them off, but they managed to convene with Tang Ru's soft mist before the fight began. And the meeting point that they chose wasn't simply the place as far away as possible from the support zone. Evidently, this was the place that Happy chose as their battlefield. Tang Ru's soft mist didn't join up with the team directly. Instead, she reached the location first and picked her spot. Ambush. Soft Mist was lying in wait for an ambush. The broadcast switched to her view, and it was obvious that was her plan. After seeing Tang Ru's actions, Li Yibo concluded that Happy wanted to decide the match here. The broadcast listed the health and mana on both sides. All of the characters had enough mana to last an entire fight. In terms of health, Happy had a clear disadvantage. When their characters lost health, they didn't have time to replenish it. And when Yi's little cold hands had been running away the entire time, he didn't even have an opportunity to cast an instant heal. Happy wanted to decide the match here, but could they win? No one looked at Happy's chances favorably, even if Tang Ru's soft mist was set up for an ambush. Zhang Xinjie was very cautious. Once he saw that Tang Ru's soft mist wasn't with the team, he would most likely be on his guard. With the amount of experience that Tyranny had, how effective would Tang Ru's ambush be? What's more, Tang Ru wasn't the type of player who was good at ambushes. She'd probably be more effective standing in front of Tyranny and fighting them alone. Yishu and the others entered the area. Tyranny hadn't been left behind. The broadcast focused onto soft mist, and the viewers did as well. Her ambush was the one thing that Tyranny was not aware of. Her ambush was probably Happy's last hope. Soft Mist slowly raised her spear. Charge. Rising Dragon soars the sky. End chapter.
The King's Avatar. Chapter 15-14 Favorable terrain. Audio source. WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 15-14 Favorable terrain. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Starting with a rising dragon soars the sky instead of a dragon breaks the ranks was quite a surprise to the viewers. Those familiar with Tangro knew that she loved to initiate with dragon breaks the ranks, and it would have been a very suitable move for her present situation, too. But in the end, her spear turned into a roaring dragon as it flew towards Tyranny. She had mixed up her usual starting move, but it was nothing too surprising for Tyranny. Tangro had loaded into the map a while ago, yet there were still no signs of her. From the moment they stepped into this region, the entirety of their surroundings were within their sights. The magic dragon tore into Tyranny's formation, but not a single one of them was hit by it. When using Rising Dragon soars the sky, the battle mage need to maintain a certain distance away. But would that be enough? Due to the long ending lag of the skill, with this skill missing, the counterattack wasn't something that could be resolved through that bit of distance. Zhang Xinji was watching for Tangro's next moves. At this point, the dragon was already dissipating. The rising dragon soars the sky was unable to show its might before being forcefully cancelled. A cancel would result in ending lag as well. However, compared to using the skill to completion, the ending lag would be reduced by half. Careful! Tyranny's two gunners had begun firing at Soft Mist. Zhang Xinji didn't forget to warn his teammates. For Happy, relying on that Rising Dragon soars the sky would have been a bit overconfident. He doubted that Happy had placed their hopes onto that skill landing. The real assault would come during these next moments. What will they do? Zhang Xinji quickly thought up several possibilities, and Soft Mist's next moves were indeed within his expectations. Shattering the lands. Soft Mist jumped into the air, swinging her spear heroically. Although the Rising Dragon had missed, it had disrupted Tyranny's formation. In the end, that high-level skill was just a ruse. Her next move would disrupt their formation even further. Soft Mist fell, and a burst of battle chi erupted. The shattering the lands had been within Zhang Xinji's expectations, but Tyranny had no suitable way to deal with this powerful skill. Their only choices were to temporarily retreat or to face it head-on. Reinforced iron bones. The two fighters on Tyranny trembled. The shattering the land sent out a burst of battle chi, sending branches and leaves flying into the air. When it struck the two fighters, it made a loud bang. Their health plummeted. The power of a level 75 skill wasn't something that a low-level defense buff like reinforced iron bones could negate. However, with the super armor, while the battle chi still inflicted damage onto them, it couldn't push them in the slightest. Before the skill had come out, Desert Dust and Dark Thunder had already been charging towards her. The skill was unable to knock them over, and Soft Mist was now stuck in its ending lag. There was no way for her to dodge their pincer attack. Two streaks of blood flew into the air. The whirlpool of battle chi created by shattering the lands instantly dispersed. Had Soft Mist been struck down? When the audience took a closer look, they were dumbfounded. There was, inside the shattering the lands area of effect, not 3 players, but 4. What happened? The audience felt dazed at the scene in front of them. The more experienced audience members immediately looked towards the big screen. Sure enough, a replay was being shown. When Desert Dust and Dark Thunder attacked, Soft Mist was still stuck in her ending lag, unable to move. But at the final juncture, Lord Grimm suddenly appeared in front of her. His two hands flickered up and down, resulting in two streaks of blood. Blood from Desert Dust and Dark Thunder. Dual Blade Crescent Flow. The audience members who knew what was what immediately shouted the skill name out. Dual Blade Crescent Flow was an assassin skill that required dual blades. Against opponents who used attacks to parry, this was a perfect counter. For the user, it was a perfect complement to using attacks to parry. Team 301's captain, Yang Kong, was proficient in this style. Lord Grimm's myriad manifestations umbrella had transformed into two blades, striking down Desert Dust and Dark Thunder simultaneously. By the time the audience finished reflecting over and appreciating the play, the situation on the battlefield had already changed. Han Wenking and Lin Jingyan weren't intimidated by the dual-blade crescent flow, but Lord Grimm's sudden interference had surprised them. And Yi Shu had appeared at the perfect moment. The two weren't able to make any adjustments in time. However, they quickly regained their composure and attacked again. Yi Shu reacted faster, though. The myriad manifestations umbrella transformed again, and a streak of black swept towards them. Shadow Cloak. Han Wenking and Lin Jingyan immediately saw and recognized the skill. Grabs were still effective against super armor. Their only choice was to dodge. The two had their characters avoid the Shadow Cloak, and these two experienced players wasted no movement. They dodged just outside of the Shadow Cloak's range, their movements incomparably precise. Their timing had been perfect as well. Before the Shadow Cloak disappeared, the two were already stepping forward to counterattack. Slow down. A warning came from Zhang Xinji, but it was too late. Sure. The Shadow Cloak suddenly tightened, wrapping the two characters into a bundle. Han Wenking and Lin Jingyan was stunned. Had they misjudged it? No. The two were clear on this point. Lord Grimm took a step back. Although the two were bound by Shadow Cloak, with their super armor, he wouldn't be able to send them away, so he simply retreated. With this retreat, Soft Mist could be seen. Han Wenking and Lin Jingyan suddenly understood. A battle mage was a mage class, and Shadow Cloak was a low-level skill, so she could learn it too. Lord Grimm used the skill first, and then when Soft Mist could move again, she immediately followed suit with a Shadow Cloak of her own. The two Shadow Cloaks overlapped with each other, so how could they have distinguished between them? Han Wenking and Lin Jingyan had overlooked this possibility, and only took into account Lord Grimm's Shadow Cloak. Just when they thought they had avoided it, Soft Mist's Shadow Cloak took its place. The two hadn't seen Soft Mist act, but Zhang Xinji had noticed it. However, the warning had come too late. It was just a brief exchange. Lord Grimm and Soft Mist immediately retreated. Zhang Jialei and Qin Muyan could reach them, but they couldn't keep the two of them there. What's more, Happy's other team members weren't just sitting there watching. Suma Chung's dancing rain stood to the side, providing support for Lord Grimm and Soft Mist. Chase. Of course Tyranny had to give chase. Desert Dust and Dark Thunder quickly escaped the Shadow Cloak. Lord Grimm and Soft Mist weren't able to make a clean getaway with just that one skill. In the end, Soft Mist's ambush had given the rest of Happy time to take their positions. But she herself, as well as Yi Shu's Lord Grimm who had come to rescue her, were still within Tyranny's attack range. Tyranny pursued the two of them fiercely. The three others on Happy quickly occupied the high grounds. The houses in the residential area were scattered all over the forest in picturesque disorder. Zhang Xinji swept over their positions. The three characters on Happy had moved into the rooms on the trees and were standing by the windows. From the window openings, Dancing Rain was attacking, Little Cold Hands was healing, and Concealed Light was controlling his summons in an attempt to provide cover for Yishu and Tang Rou. No, not providing cover, but assisting him with their offense. Zhang Shenji saw their formation and immediately understood. Lord Grim and Soft Mist suddenly stopped. They turned back and rushed towards Desert Dust and Dark Thunder. In the end, Tyranny had been baited by Happy. However, this couldn't be considered a trap. Happy occupied a slightly more favorable position, allowing them to establish a more stable offensive formation. Yishu and Tang Rou had timed their counter-attack perfectly. With the stickiness of their close-range characters, it would probably be riskier for Tyranny to run away than take the fight. It looks like we'll be deciding the match here. Yishu truly wasn't simple. Happy had been at a disadvantage for the entire period of their pursuit, but by the end of it, he had managed to create a slightly favorable position out of it. But would that slight advantage be enough? Happy was at a numbers disadvantage, and because of Tyranny's pursuit, they weren't able to stop to take a breather and heal themselves up. How could it be so easy for Happy to catch up to Tyranny's lead? Zhang Shenji saw through Happy's biggest weak spot and mercilessly set up arrangements to target it. Attack. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Just attack. Tyranny's expertise was in attacking, and the most suitable target at the moment was Lord Grim. The four focused their fire onto Lord Grim. So mean. Yishu typed into the chat. Lord Grim turned around and ran. Zhang Shenji wasn't surprised. Yishu had no reason to stand his ground here. He could see through Happy's strategy. Yishu's and Tang Rou's main responsibility was to keep Tyranny busy. The main damage dealers were the long-range classes on the treetops. This wasn't a direct fight, but a war of attrition. Unfortunately, Happy only had two players at the front, Yishu and Tang Rou. If Tang Rou were Fang Rui instead, this situation would be even more favorable for Happy. Fang Rui's dirty playstyle was exactly what was needed here. With Tang Rou's playstyle, when she tried to restrict her opponents, she would usually restrict herself as well. All of these points need to be utilized well. Zhang Shenji thought about what methods would be the most reliable and adjusted his plans accordingly. Tyranny suddenly turned their focus towards Soft Mist. You guys really think you can do as you please, huh? Yishu typed into chat as Lord Grim returned back. Push towards 1 o'clock. Zhang Shenji ordered. Su Mucheng and the other two unhappy were in an extremely good position, avoiding practically all dead spots. However, even if they individually had no dead spots, they would have a few as a coordinated whole. The 1 o'clock direction was one such hole that Zhang Shenji had noticed. The entirety of Tyranny forced their way over. However, Tang Rou's next moves thwarted Zhang Shenji's intentions. She jumped twice, leaping onto what could be considered the second floor in this area. Pincer. Zhang Shenji was unmoved. How could he overlook the different heights in this terrain? This change was within his expectations. The second floor. There was limited space there. Her options instantly became limited, making it easier to trap her. Tang Rou's decision exposed her lack of experience. Yishu evidently realized that the situation wasn't good. Lord Grim hastily went over to rescue her, but with the simplicity of the second floor space, Tyranny was able to quickly complete their encirclement. Be careful of the long-range classes. Zhang Shenji reminded. Dancing Rain's gunfire could reach her. The two old generals that had rushed onto the second floor didn't need his reminder. They could clearly see the circumstances, knowing where Happy's main attack points were. Boom boom boom. Under the cover of Dancing Rain's artillery fire, Tang Rou wanted to escape. Soft Mist Dragon breaks the ranks. dodge. This skill had to be avoided. Soft mist rushed out, striking nothing but a tree. Zhang Shenji frowned. Dragon breaks the ranks couldn't be blocked. She could break through from any direction, but the direction she chose seemed too stupid. But the moment the dragon breaks the ranks struck the tree, an enormous crash could be heard. The second floor on top of the tree suddenly collapsed. End chapter.